I'll have to look it out. Representatives of Reality. It includes footage of his activism in Vietnam during the war and after the war. A Cloud Never Dies, narrated by Peter Coyote on YouTube and other platforms. I didn't know that. I'm going to write that down right now. Can't wait to watch it. Thank you so much. Okay, Cloud Never Dies. Note to self. Thank you for that. Okay, and Gabriella, I think it's Gabriella, right? Yeah. Hi, dear.
Hi. I've actually just watched the Cloud Never Dies this morning. It's really beautiful. So yeah.
So what time is it where you are? Isn't it like 6 in the morning or something?
It's now 7:20 a.m.
So did you like stay up all night?
I did. I have for the last three nights.
Wow. Oh my God. I'm so inspired. That's awesome.
It's all good. I'm flying high on the energy of this, and I think the last lecture was by far the best. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
And also thank you, Daryl, for the offering, and Domini. So Domini, I'm actually from Northern Lights territory, kind of from the border of Scotland, and we occasionally used to get the Northern Lights there. So just a side question, I don't know whether she can perhaps answer this, is if there's anything anyone could offer on the spirituality side of the Northern Lights. That's just a side question. The other thing I wanted to share was this one. You mentioned the toggles. I actually took the liberty of getting this book a few days ago. I think you might have recommended it, Andrew, The Luminous Heart of Inner Radiance. I just wanted to share, if it's all right, a beautiful image called The Return, which I hope perhaps resonates. I just thought that was a beautiful vision. One of my favorite books.
Lovely. Lovely.
The other thing is this book, I'm sure you're probably familiar with it, from the Lumbini Institute, Searching for the Dharma, Finding Salvation, Buddhist Pilgrimage in Time and Space.
You know, I do not know that book.
It's limited edition, actually. Yes, it's limited edition, but I picked this up in a place called Jimbocho in Tokyo, which is it's a very large book town. It has a lot of spiritual literature, especially from India.
Oh my goodness!
So I'm just currently reviewing this for them, but it's fantastic, and I'm just actually coming up to the point where it starts to mention bardos, believe it or not.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
thank you for that. I'm not aware of that book. That's awesome.
I'm also studying the sacred geometry, and this is connected to something you were saying earlier about the 100,000 repetitions of a mandala.
Yeah.
If there were one mandala offering that you would recommend to us, which one would it be?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Well, there, you know, in the actual classic mandala offering practice, that particular mandala, and so I'll say a little bit how that works with classic mandala offering practice, and then more specifically about like favorites. Mandala offering in that sense, mandala is another one of these. It's a very rich, multivalent term. It has a lot of power because it can be used to describe many different things. On one level, in terms of this practice of making 100,000 mandala offerings, the mandala in this case represents the universe. So you can, on one level, you can say the entire universe is a mandala. A mandala, basically the word means essence container. It's an organizing principle. Again, this is one of these incredibly profound, rich topics that really fascinated, for instance, Carl Jung and others. And so when you do mandala offering, it's like you're not particularly offering one type of mandala. You're offering the universe as it's represented in the mandala. So when you create it, you're offering heaps of rice, and then you offer, and basically Mount Meru Sumeru, it represents, and I don't have a picture of it here, but in Luis Gomez's book, there's a wonderful depiction of this. It's symbolic of just offering the universe. Now, outside of that, then I do have favorite mandalas, more personally, that are connected to the deities. So for instance, here, this is a little more tantric interjection, but the question begs it. So whenever I'm doing really full-blown, what are called sadhana practices, which you may know, these are wonderful, really rich, massive liturgies. Sometimes they can take 6 hours to get through. And sometimes when you're doing really long practices, you actually create these massive sand mandalas that you've probably seen monks make. We make those. We spend days making these. We put a glass on top of them. And then we do these amazing week-long, very intensive, month-long times of sometimes practices that are then connected to very specific mandalas. And so there, for me, Vajrayogini, Chakrasambhara, all the mandalas that I have spent literally years on, doing practices over and over and over, literally sometimes millions of times, I have such a deep connection. But I have tremendous respect. Like if you attended any of the teachings I did with Bob Thurman, behind him was the Kalachakra mandala, right? You go to Shambhala Mountain Center, Darla Mountain Center now, you go into the stupa, you look up on the ceiling of the main room, Kalachakra mandala. So that's another one I'm really very, very fond of. And so they're really just hypnotic. They're beautiful. They're meditative devices. They all have tremendous capacities for transformation. You can use them in so many ways. But my favorite ones, again, this just because I've done these practices for so long, connected to certain particular deities that live in these particular mandalas. Those are the ones I've spent the most time with. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And just following on from that, I'm wondering how we as seekers can achieve a balance between the preparation for a pilgrimage in terms of spiritual practices that we might integrate into our everyday life, and how to achieve that preparation before we embark on a pilgrimage for maximum efficacy.
Oh, what a great question. That's a really beautiful question. I might recommend, there's a beautiful book called Sacred Ground. You should get it if you don't have it. Jangpan Kongtrul Lodro Thai's teachings on pilgrimage. He talks about, and the translator is Nawang Zangpo, who's one of the greatest translators. This is a really marvelous book. The entire book is on this topic about how to work properly to prepare for pilgrimage. And that's a fantastic question, because with proper preparation, pilgrimage can change your life. And of course, as you know, it's a spiritual journey when you go on pilgrimage. So it's not like you're going to trek in the Adirondacks, right? You know that. Be prepared for anything. These things, they're not, if you're doing real spiritual pilgrimage, it's going to kick your ass. And this is the important thing about protectors that you have to understand. And I did not understand this at first, just to reveal my stupidity. I was all over the protectors at the beginning. It's like, oh man, I'm going to really do these protectors, because I had this kind of guardian angel thing that they're just going to protect my ego. They're just going to protect my comfort plan. They're going to protect my bank account and my turf, right? Lordy, this is where you need your spiritual attorney before you sign a spiritual contract, because protectors are there to kick your spiritual ass. They're not going to protect your ego. They're going to protect your path. And by that, sometimes what they're going to do is they will destroy your conventional reality. So you have to be careful what you ask for. Sometimes, like Trungpa Rinpoche said, chaos should be regarded as extremely good news. And so the Dakinis work this way, the Dharmapalas, all the protectors, they can work this way. So you have to be, again, you have to know what you're doing. You have to understand your motivation. And if you think that you're going to be supplicating these things, they're not like, again, no criticism. They're not like guardian angels that are there to just make you feel good. Literally, they can protect your life, totally. But they will function to basically keep you on the path. They will serve to keep you and accelerate your path. And sometimes one of the best ways to do that is to destroy your conventional versions of reality. So again, this is one reason why Tantra is contact sport spirituality, prescription strength. Very powerful, but you have to be just a little bit careful. Read the surgeon's general warning. These teachings are hazardous to your egoic health. And so before you sign that contract, you just have to be a little careful, know what you're doing, so that then when you do this and your world completely falls apart, you realize, hey, I'm asking for this, right? Same way when you go to like a Bayo or to a sacred land or sometimes. Yes, as a casual tourist, oh, Bodhgaya, it's so beautiful. They had all these trinkets. I could buy all these chatskis. Look what I bought. I got this great t-shirt. Fine, that's great. Good for you. But if you go there as a genuine practitioner, brace yourself. You're heading into a chipper. Those roadside chippers that chew everything up. they're there to the path is death in slow motion, right? And so you just have to be careful. Just know what you're doing. It's prescription strength medicine. So you don't just randomly write. That's why we're not overtly doing protector practice. I'm not overtly doing strictly Vajrayana tantric things, because not everybody listening is subscribing to that, and that's not my place to do that. So when you do it, if it's done right, exactly the way you're saying, and I love your question, with preparation, with intelligence, with sensitivity, with pure altruistic motivation, pilgrimage can transform your life. So those are the principles. And then read Nawang's book, Sacred Ground, and then just go into it expecting a spirit of adventure. Read Ian Baker's book, Heart of the World. He went into the Bayol 10 different times of Pamika. And these are among the most challenging, horrific, conventional places to go, filled with leeches and snakes and all kinds of things to keep the shoppers away. Connecting it back to Mandala, if you look at the outer perimeter of a Mandala, and you'll see this when you go to Bodh Gaya. Outside of Bodh Gaya, it's just hell on earth. Tremendous poverty, aggression, violence. That's the channel ground, the protector that keeps the dilettantes away. And so every mandala has this firewall of protection that keeps the shoppers away. And so the Dalai Lama and others say of these places are paradises, but they're paradises for practice. In Tantra, hell is paradise because it brings up all this crap that you eventually have to relate to. And that, again, is a characteristic of Vajrayana. It is not about feeling good. It's about getting real. And that's a little bit of the problem, connecting it to the jnana states and the feel-good meditations. It's not about feeling good and getting absorbed and lost. It's about getting real. And sometimes, like, how do you relate with pain, suffering, hardship, death? How's your spirituality then? So just be careful, just be aware of what you're doing. And then when you go into it and you do it right, and you're willing to, so to speak, die, really, then you're going to get everything you possibly can get out of a pilgrimage. But if you think you're just going to, what do they call it? Club Med. And trust me, I love Club Med. If you think you're just going to Bora Bora, Tahiti, Hawaii, whatever, again, I love all these places. You get where I'm coming from. This is paradise for practice. It's not paradise for your ego. Okay. So something like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great questions. And thanks for hanging in there all night. I'm actually really impressed. That's really pretty awesome. Okay. Karen. My dear friend, Karen.